Okay, let's dive in. So, you're on the hunt for an author who's really pushing the envelope in queer fiction, horror, and sci-fi. Chances are you've probably heard the name Lee Mandelo. But for this guide, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to skip the usual author bio and try to understand his work completely through the eyes and the words of his readers to figure out what makes these books hit so hard. And let's start with this quote from a reader over on Reddit. I think it captures a feeling that so many of us who've been reading queer fiction for a while can really relate to. I mean, the coming out story is powerful, it's essential, but what happens after that? What about the stories where queer characters are just living, dealing with all the other messy, complicated stuff that life throws at you? Well, if you're one of those leaders who is absolutely starving for that something different, the word online is pretty much crystal clear. You need to meet Lee Mandelo, because according to his fans, that is precisely what his stories are all about. So what's the one thing that readers keep coming back to over and over again? It's Mandelo's absolute mastery of what they call messy queerness. And we're not just talking about identity here. We're talking about relationships, specifically queer relationships that are just buckling under an incredible amount of pressure. And here's what's so interesting. The way readers talk about the Mandelo difference. He seems to just throw out two of the most common extremes you see in fiction. On one hand, you've got the tragic bury your gaze trope, and on the other, you have the perfectly happy, everything's tied up in a bow ending. His fans say he gives you something that just feels, well, more real. Relationships that are hard, complicated, and yeah, sometimes they just completely implode.
Let's see exactly what they mean. Our first case study is his sci-fi novella, Feed Them Silence. And readers constantly bring this one up as the perfect example of a relationship that's been stretched to its absolute breaking point.
Okay, so the premise alone is just wild. You've got a scientist named Sean who uses this neuralink to literally experience the world through the mind of a wild wolf. But while she's forming what one reviewer brilliantly calls a parasocial relationship with this animal, her actual human marriage to her wife is just completely falling apart.
And this quote just absolutely nails why this book gets under people's skin. You have this high-concept, amazing sci-fi idea of linking minds with a wolf, right? But as this reviewer says, the real crash and burn, the actual horror story here, is watching this human relationship just fail so spectacularly. It's gripping, for sure, but as they put it, not in a pleasant way. Which, brings up a really important question, one that a lot of reviewers seem to be asking themselves. If these stories are so uncomfortable, and the relationships are, in the perfect words of one fan, a hot gay mess, not the fun kind, then why can't we put them down?
And the answer from that same fan is pretty simple. It's because the mess is what makes it feel genuine. That kind of emotional honesty, even when it's painful, gives the story a kind of weight, a sense of worth that you just don't get from a neat and tidy narrative.
Okay, but it's not just about the relationships. Readers also go on and on about Mandelo's incredible talent for just smashing different genres together, and that is on full display in his debut novel. So, let's talk about Summer Suns. The way reviewers describe this book, it's like a literary cocktail, just shaking up all these ingredients from completely different genres to create something that's totally new and deeply, deeply atmospheric.
I mean, seriously, just look at this mix. You've got a main character who's grieving and trying to solve his best friend's mysterious suicide. You have literal ghosts and old family curses. You've got the whole dark academia vibe. And you have illegal street racing. It sounds like it shouldn't work at all, but let me tell you, readers swear it absolutely does. This wild combination has led readers to dub it queer Appalachian Gothic. Basically, think of your classic Southern Gothic story, full of oppressive summer heat, dark secrets, and literal hauntings, but seen through the eyes of queer characters who are wrestling with masculinity, grief, and desire.
And if you're trying to get a handle on the vibe, a Goodreads reviewer came up with this absolute gem of a comparison. It's a lot like Maggie Stiefvater's The Raven Boys, only much darker, and told as if the quiet, ghost-adjacent character Noah was the one telling the story. I mean, that just paints such a vivid picture of its whole haunting, grief-soaked mood.
And if you thought that was dark, well, buckle up. Because readers say that with his next novella, Mandelo pushes the boundaries even further into horror, history, and straight-up revenge.
Which brings us to The Woods All Black, a novella that just drops us right into the super tense, isolated world of 1920s Appalachia.
Right from the jump, the setup is so gripping. We're following Leslie, a trans man who's working as a frontier nurse. He takes a job in this tiny, remote town that's basically run by religious zealots. The story promises blood-soaked revenge, and readers confirm, oh yeah, it definitely delivers on that tension.
But here's the thing that every reviewer points out. This is not your typical historical revenge story. There's something else out there in the woods, something ancient and not quite human. And this is where the book, by all accounts, takes a sharp turn into something very, very weird.
And honestly, I cannot say it any better than this Goodreads reviewer did. The folk horror part of this story becomes so central, so explicit, that it led to this now famous, perfect one-sentence review. It's a bold, unforgettable choice that, for a lot of readers, completely defines the book.
Okay, so we've walked through 3 very different books, all from the perspective of the people who've read them. Let's bring it all together and answer the big question. Is Lee Mandelo an author you should be reading?
Well, based on what everyone's saying, you're definitely going to want to pick up Mandelo if you're looking for these things. 1. Queer relationships that feel intensely real and messy. 2. Genre-bending horror that is not afraid to get really, really strange. 3. Those atmospheric, heavy Southern Gothic settings. And 4. Deep, powerful explorations of grief and rage.
And to make it even easier, here's a little starter guide for you. If what you want is an intense, psychological sci-fi drama, readers say you should start with Feed Them Silence. If you're in the mood for a slow-burn Southern Gothic mystery, complete with ghosts, then grab Summer Suns. And if you are here for historical revenge with a massive dose of wild folk horror, your first stop is absolutely The Woods All Black.
At the end of the day, it seems like reading Mandelo isn't just about finishing a book. It's about becoming a fan. A real fan. And there's no better proof of that than this simple, powerful statement from a Goodreads review. After finishing just one book, the path forward was clear. I think I will be reading everything Lee Mandelo publishes. So, that's our reader's guide to Lee Mandelo. And now, really, the only question left is, with all these different paths into his strange and beautiful worlds laid out in front of you, which dark door will you open first?